All right, quick recap. Let's see what we have here. Considering you guys were like too afraid to even go visit, I totally had to skip over like a whole page of notes. Um, last session, you guys picked off just after sleeping at the Blood of the Vine Tavern. You met with Ismark the Lester. It was the burgomaster's son, now the new burgomaster of Barovia. He talked to you guys the night before about basically hiring you on to help him transport his sister Irina to a town called Valakai, which is a known safe haven and a much better, happier, safer sort of place in these lands that isn't terrorized by the devil, he says. For whatever reason, his town of Barovia and his house have been under constant attack by undead, ghouls, wolves, and the like. And he believes Irina is compromised or something's wrong. He doesn't exactly know what is wrong. Whatever the case is, he believes that the devil wants her. But like I said, he hired you on to help him transport her to the town called Valakai because nobody else even remotely wants to help him or seems too scared to do so. You all got 50 gold, 25 up front, 25 upon arriving in Valakai. He did leave it all back there for you. Some of you took it, some of you didn't. He threw in some, I believe, a shield and a sword and made sure you guys were all equipped and ready to go. When you got to her house, you met this young girl, maybe like 17, 18 years of age. Normally she has bright red hair, but she's dyed it black in hopes of blending in or not being realized for who she is, basically. At the house, which looks like it's been under constant attack lately, you found that their father, the previous burgomaster, had passed away due to a heart attack. Irina refused to leave the town until his body was buried. From there, you decided to go ahead, go to the church, bury this old fart, and get the hell out of Dodge. Didn't quite work that way. On your way to the church, everybody scared themselves and apparently did not want to go see what the screaming and hollering was all about there. But you did talk Irina into instead just taking the body with you guys and burying it in Valakai in hopes that they had a cemetery and maybe it would even be better in the end anyway, being a safer place, which she begrudgingly agreed to. On the way out of town, you guys saw an old woman going door to door. Looked like most of the people weren't answering, but one house did answer, so she traded looked like a steaming, warm, baked pie in for a child, which she shoved into the bottom of her cart. She did watch you guys from a distance and stayed away from you, but she was rather interested in who or what you were doing. You noticed there was a raven that seemed to be following you along as well. Irina let you know that crows and other blackbirds are often servants of the devil, but ravens are not, and they transport the dead spirits. Headed out of town, came to a bridge where you met a handsomely charming man named Jack. Everybody seemed to like him a lot. He traded a passage to Sarah Falls, which is where you headed first on your way to Valakai. He didn't want that. He wanted your horse and the girl, but he agreed to at least take a ride to Sarah Falls with you. Seems like he had business there, so he took that in turn. Made friends with him and hung out, chatted, drank some wine, passed a hangman's noose. When those were mud, he saw what looked to be your brother or somebody hanging from a noose. Got creeped out a bit on there. Nobody else could see it, just you. It sort of mocked you a bit. Nothing overly else there, just a little bit with you. Everybody hopped back in the wagon, headed to Sarah Falls. By the time you got there, night was starting to descend. But the Vistani, the people that camp out here, very gypsy, troupish-like, seemed to be having a hell of a good party going on. Wine barrels were cracked, the ale was flowing, food was cooking. It looked like a rather fun place to be. Ismark was not too thrilled about this. He seemed quite uncomfortable, but you guys talked him into at least giving these people a chance. They hadn't done him any wrong, so he's only heard rumors of them being spies of the devil. Parked his wagon. He took Irina, got some food and drink. She drank a bit too much, and he ended up taking her back to the wagon to sleep it off for the night. Some of the people are retiring in, but after some drink and food yourselves, what's her name? Alika, the lady who owned the Blood of the Vine Tavern, you came across her and she mentioned that you should go talk to Madame Eva. And she pointed out the tent, the only tent in this whole little congregation here that is not brightly colored and striped. Instead, it's just this drab, brownish gray color hanging off to the side. Boop, 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 boop. And I believe that is basically it. As you guys were headed towards the tent, is where we stopped it. And let me just get my book here, and we can kick things off. All right. Anything else anybody wants to add before we start?
I mean, I'm not sure if you really emphasized how much we got along with Jack.
Yeah, it went really well. I thought it did. I mean, I'm a bit biased, but he's a good guy. All right. So Alika mentioned, I believe you were going to go over and talk to Ismark and Irina about going and visiting Madame Eva with them as well, but Alika sort of mentioned that these tracker readings, as she calls them, are more meant for those who carry the cards. Since they didn't have any cards, she didn't really say they wouldn't be unwelcome, but she sort of shied away, saying it may not be the best idea to have her there. It could potentially ruin the reading or throw it off or not give you the proper layout per se. But as you know, he did talk to Ismark. He was going to take her to go lay down and basically settle in for the evening. Alika too, I think you mentioned her as well, having wanted you to follow her into this tent or whatever, but she'll, definitely shake her head. No, it's best if the four of you do this. A tracker reading is like following a thread of fate. It's only meant for those with the cards. And I do not wish to interfere, if you get my drift. She'll walk along. On your way to this tent, you'll see a whole group of the Vistani. 8 or 9 of them are kind of sit around a fire. Another group of them stand around it. But there's one taller man. He looks older, perhaps in his 60s, later 60s. Bright colored clothes on. He has a small set of, like a hand drum that's strapped around his waist that he taps on every now and then as he's telling a story. And Alika will stop for a moment. Oh, this is a good part. Listen. You see this old man. His eyes look over at Warnock for a moment, to Victor, Vasily, and Mud. And he smiles. He's like, you've come at a good time. Good time. He says, no. I once saw a mighty wizard came to this land over a year ago. I remember him like it was yesterday. He stood exactly where you're standing. He points at you, Mud. A very charismatic man he was. He thought he could rally the people of Barovia against the devil. He stirred them with thoughts of revolt and bore them to the castle en masse. And he sort of waves over his shoulder. In the distance, you can still see the tops of this castle. It's miles and miles out on a mountaintop, but it hangs there. There's this dark silhouette against the sort of bluish purple sky. It says, when the beast appeared, the wizard's peasant army, it fled in fear, disgust. They couldn't stand against the beast. Very few stood their ground, but they all died with a swoop of his hand. But the wizard, he was quite powerful. More powerful than I've ever seen. And, I've seen many powerful. But this one, see, this wizard and Strahd, they cast spells at one another. Their battle flew from the courtyards of Ravenloft. Again, he points over his shoulder at this castle in the distance. To a precipice overlooking Sail Falls. He sort of waves his hands around. You guys can hear in the distance the crashing of waters. Anybody with a bit of knowledge could tell that it must be a waterfall somewhere off in the distance crashing down. I saw the battle with my own eyes, both of them. It was thunder, it shook the mountainside, and the great rocks tumbled down upon the wizard. It was a cataclysmic storm of events. But yet his magic, as I said, he was very powerful. The wizard, he burst through these storms, banged and chipped a little, but still alive, still battling the beast. Lightnings from the heavens struck the wizard, and again he stood his ground. But when the devil fell upon him, even the wizard's magic could not help him. No, nothing can help you from this devil. I saw him throwing 1,000 feet or more to his death down into the chasm. I climbed down the river that morning, perhaps to see what the wizard had. You never know. Perhaps there was something good. But I did not find the body. It was gone, crashed. There was blood. There was fabric torn, pages of books scattered everywhere. Perhaps a spell book, and I could not read it. But once again, as always, the beast, the devil, he won that night. Foolish, foolish wizard. And everybody will sort of sit in silence for a moment and then just start cheering and clapping as he'll start playing the drums again and sort of doing a little prance and dance around the fire. Lee could be like, yes, I love that story. I love that story. He tells us so well, doesn't he?
Anything about that story true?
Us Vistani, we never lie. We may deceive and may trick, but we do not lie.
And this wizard was never found.
That is how the story goes, at least in his body. No. I guess he drowned and was washed away in the river Ivris, but who knows? Who knows? It's all but a mystery. Come. You have readings to do. And she'll sort of put her arms around you, sort of motioning you all forward.
Before we head into Eva's tent, I want to take one last look around for either Jack or, where are my notes here? The first Vasani who met with us and we told him about Jack.
The old man. Yep, go for it.
No.
That's right. No, it seems like a lot of them have actually sort of retired into beds, except for this main group here listening to the story and stuff. But you scan through that, and it's don't really see any faces you recognize besides just in passing here recently, but nobody out of the ordinary. Jack does not seem to be anywhere about. You can see that tent in the distance where this old man went originally when he broke off from you in a bit of a hurry. But even in there, the lights are now, the lanterns anyway are cast off.
Well, I guess this is what we're here for.
Just leads you up to just the outside of this tent. You can see the reddish glow of this tent filtering through in between the cracks and the seams, some of the stitching across the ground. Warmth seems to come from inside as well. You can sense there must be a fire or some sort of hearth or something inside this tent pulling out the warmth. And Aliko will look to all of you. If you need anything, you're welcome to a tent to sleep in. And she'll point in the distance. You can see quite a few tents set up that look to be empty. You can rest there for the night if you need. Or if you have anything, I will be amongst my fellows. She points back over at the group of people that are still up and says, I wish you good luck. Many people think that we do not care, that we are servants and workers for the devil, but that is not true. Since we have our ways, but I truly wish the best for you and good luck. And she'll sort of run her hand down your shoulder, Mornak, and offer a smile before turning in this swirl of bright colored clothing as she heads back towards the other group of people. All right, if you got to head out, dude, no problem.
Okay. I'll catch you guys next week.
All right, I'll send you a link to this when it's all done too.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, you're welcome. Save that up there. I'll still run through this and everything, so I'll just send them the video link and everything. If combat or anything breaks out, I can cover for that for you guys too. But I don't want to really break anything off. I'll make sure you guys aren't screwed over or nothing.
As we will.
And then we can maybe just call it a little short or something. But anyway, not a problem. Let me move this out of the way. Inside, well, what do you guys do if she leaves anything, perhaps? Or
No, I think Mud is keeping an eye on that other tent as he's walking up. Very distrustful of Jack. She's keeping an eye out around. Not really, I guess, too much stuff going on for me to really notice anything, but.
And Victor, do you do anything?
Victor is like he's super focused on going to meet Mata Ava. Like it's almost like he's meeting your hero, you know, someone that you admired all your life, even though he just heard of her. He just has that feeling like he somewhat knows her, but he's more like interested in these cards, why he has them, and of course her. So he's like focused on going into that tent.
You see this girl, Alika, as she turns and heads off, leaving the both of you standing in front of this partly open tent doorway there, and the orange light filtering beneath. You can see what looks to be a shadow on the back of the wall, sort of hunched over a little bit, and then you hear a voice. At last you have arrived. Come, come, come. Don't be so afraid. I don't bite. I don't bite. As you step in between these curtains and look in, maybe Mud, you first kind of peek your head and you can see it looks like most other tents. Nothing really out of the ordinary. There's a bed and cot in one corner. In the very center, there's a small little, looks like to be a iron, larger pot that has a flame burning on the inside. It gives off quite a bit of warmth. It's a little more warm than for comfort, I guess. It's actually quite hot in this tent. But you'll see this old woman sitting next to a desk. In front of her, she has a pile of cards. She has a crystal ball. These incense is burning. It's very sweet cinnamon sort of smell. And she looks back at you. And I will put a picture over in the chat. Let's see. Well, maybe I will once it loads. And as you glance in, Mornak, Vasily, and Mud, you would all recognize this woman. As you look across the room, very, very old, this white hair stringing down her shoulders. She wears this dirty, gray, bluish colored dress. She looks exactly like that woman that you saw back at the Goat's Horn Tavern. I think she introduced herself as Verde to you, Mud, but it is indeed this same old woman. She offers a bit of a smile. Apparently my daughter is singing in the background too. And she smiles. She says, come, come. You have reason to be here, I guess.
I think Mud's going to be very, very reserved on this and kind of push Victor forward a little bit.
Oh, you don't even have to push him forward. Victor's like already like in there. He's getting comfortable on the floor, like almost like a little child, like waiting to get a piece of candy. You know, like He is just waiting for any tidbit of information she says.
And she doesn't.
Oh, actually, I do want to say, the cards that are on the table, are they like the same design of the cards that I have,
They are.
or
Yep,
the unique cards that we have?
Yep, they look
Okay.
exactly the same. At least hers look way more worn and older and stuff, but the same design and same look to them. Probably
Okay.
not the same exact set, but same exact type of cards. Yes. She will just sit back in her chair, watching, not really saying anything as both of you step in and the others follow behind you. She'll motion in front of her. There's piles of pillows. She's on a sort of a stool, but it's low to the ground. So if you guys sat on the floor, the table would still be right in front of you. But she sort of waves toward these pillows and blankets scattered about the ground. Says, I believe you have something for me, yes? And she'll lay her hand over top of these pile of cards that she has in front of her, sort of scurrying them about the table. Perhaps they look like this, yes?
I will reach and pull out my own deck of cards and go through them until I find that particular card, and then I will give it to her, or set it on the table is what I'll do.
So watches as you place yours on the table. Then her eyes look at you, Mud. And you have card, no?
Yeah, I'll take my little book out, open it up, take the card out, and I don't understand, Grandmother. I've had this card for many years, and I've just met some of these folks, and I'll place it face up on the table.
Ah, the sisters' fate, they conspire in strange ways, my friend. Perhaps they've taken a liking to you. Perhaps. What about the rest of you? Cards, please. She'll wave as each of the others sort of take out their cards from where they have them. Vasily uses his for a bookmark in his spell book. I believe Mornak had his in his pack. They will hand them over as well. One card for each of you, 4 cards total, but Vasily has a second found in the basement of the death house in that dining room beneath the floors. And he'll sort of show that one. She says, oh, yes, you must have 5 cards. She'll take them all, sort of playing them out in front of her, looking over them, and then she'll begin to shuffle them. So tell me, Mud, where did you get this card? Was it your brother's? Perhaps your grandpappy's?
It was my brother's. I don't know where it came from before then. It was my brother's. And Muddle growl over his shoulder.
Yes. Just as I thought. So do you have a different name that you go by, or a real proper name, Mud? Was that given your name, or do you know yourself as another name, perchance?
Kern.
Kurt?
Kern, yes. Kern was my family name, but each of the surviving brothers, when we were exiled, were given new names before we were left. And I'm the only one who kept my name. Well, also the only one who lived long enough to keep my exiled name.
He says, well, Mud, should I say, Kern, we will see what the cards have in store for you. But what about you, Victor? Where did you get this card? Perhaps this was from your grandpappy.
I'm not sure. I was abandoned as a child, and when my adopted father found me, I've had this card on me plus this deck, but this card seemed unique, almost like it didn't belong with this set, but I just always kept it in there because I didn't have this card in that set.
Very perceptive. Very perceptive. No, you are correct. The cards you have, just a simple tarot card deck. They are used by false prophets, people who like to sway others to their own means. But that card, that is Traka, a true, what you call a deck of the fates. The others, fakes, but they're fun nonetheless. They just don't give quite the proper readings like these. But please keep in mind these cards. They work in mysterious ways. I believe you may have heard that before. But perhaps we will learn a bit something. Why don't you all have a seat? And let's see what the cards have to say. What say you? Will you trust an old lady to read your fortune? She'll reach over and has a small bowl beside her that she jingles. You can see there's a couple of copper coins in there and a silver piece. Perhaps a tip or two. An old lady likes her wine.
Before anyone else can say anything or do anything, Victor will quickly reach in and grab 5 gold coins and put them in the bowl and say, "Oh, please, yes, read my fortune."
You are a very thoughtful man, Victor. That is more money than I need, but I thank you nonetheless. She'll quickly move the ball down under her table so you can't take the coins back, obviously.
With that, he will also say, "Well, someone of your years should enjoy the comforts of life instead of having to struggle."
Yes, I know this struggle too well. Many years I've spent in what you call less than beneficial circumstances. But I do well, my friend, I do well. Let us see. Let us see. She'll take these cards and sort of fans them out in her hand a little bit, and then she places them down. One for you, Kern. Mud. One for you, Victor. And one for you, Vasily. And one more for the elf, Moanak. This last card, it's meant for all of you, as we will place that at the end. She places these cards out. And I actually will move my camera down so that we can do a proper card reading. She said, these cards, they don't give what you call an answer to your questions. They help you on your own. They point you in direction. They aid you with your thoughts. What they have to say, sometimes it's true, sometimes it's not. For it's just what you call one strand of fate in a knot of many. It could happen, and it couldn't. But they will never steer you wrong. And what they have to say is no less important today than it will be tomorrow. So this first card, it's one of knowledge of secrets untold, lies forgotten, and rumors of truth. That which could be, sought brightens the mind in preparation, but one misstep could lead down a darkened path. One you have tampered with in hopes of aid. Says, careful, my friend. Evil tempts with power and promises, but the payment is never fair. Sure. Takes this card, flips it. The Druid. Practitioners of the ancient gods, nature spirits. The irony is thick with jealousy, it seems. I see a tree. Yes, a tree of twisted branches and a gaping maw of putrid honey. A haunt with shed skin and hollow eyes crawling across the cons of ancient past. One of you has seen this place, of which I do not know. It leads to knowledge of the ancients, rumors of the past, and facts of immolation. So, takes a moment, looks at all of you. You can see her eyes have taken on this very pale, grayish white, almost blind sort of look to them. And she stays real still, almost in a trance. What do you guys do? Say?
I think Mud's just staring intently. I think he's still dumbfounded by being called Kern for the first time in years.
Yeah, Victor is just waiting for the next card, like almost like sitting on the edge of the seat, just soaking up all this information.
She will look back down. The second card is that of devotion. It points you to where your heart will lead and guides you in your beliefs. One of you will be constantly reminded of their past and threatened by the circumstances. Trust your heart and never back down from what it tells you. You've been bound for many, many years. It is time you live again. Aha! The Diviner. My favorite card. And I guess one could be quite biased, such as myself. Something can be said of one who can see through the strands of fate, not just with their eyes. There is something else here waiting in the wings, an item of belief, of cleansing, and of blackened silk. Soft, yet sharp. It tickles, and yet it still draws blood. It will aid you. I don't know what it is. And how, I do not know. You will have to ask yourself that when the time comes, eh? And she will look down. This card, the third card. It's one of strength, and that rests in the center of the cards. It is the most important of the cards, and is the branch from which the rest flower. It is a metaphor for the one who holds everything together, who triumphs even in the faith of impossible odds, no matter the cost. No matter the cost. I wonder what the card will be. What do you think it should be?
Just get on with it already, woman.
Impatience, Karen, impatience. She flips this over. The ghost. Interesting. Great disturbance surrounds this card. It is one of sadness, sorrow, of tragedy. I wonder what that could mean for you and those around you.
Like even though that's not Mud's card, I think he kind of gripped the table uh, a bit too tightly at the mention of the ghost, and kind of crunches the edge of the table a bit.
She stretches out her hand. She actually places her hand on yours, this cold, weathered, wrinkly woman's hand. She says, "Come, come. It is okay, Mud. Let the cards tell the story. Let the cards tell." She says, I see a man weeping for his fallen lover. And then the anger, it boils over. Flashes of agony, blazing heat of hatred. Bodies buried in green and then forgotten. I see darkness, cobwebs, dust and bones, and the stench of death. It surrounds a golden sun and chain. You would do wise to seek this thing. She looks directly at you again, Mud. You would do wise to seek this. The fourth card. How I love these cards. They tell beautiful stories. Let's see. This card, it is one of aid, of helpfulness, of friendship. Sometimes, other times, you simply take what you can get. It is important to remember that you are not alone in life, and help can come from anywhere. Whatever it is you all desire is one. Something will offer the help you need. Everyone holds secrets, has their own fears. Some are exposed in the light of days, others in the dark of nights. Let us see what this card says. Let us see. The swashbuckler. We don't see many of them here, you know. We have no seas, but we have, well, people who like the rapiers and the bards and, well, the swashbuckler is a person of light-hearted jests, cruel tricks, flashy motives. They're always there to pull your strings and to be a thorn in your side. But in the end, they have the same goals as you, though with different desires.
That kind of sounds like Jack, doesn't it, Bud?
I was thinking the same thing.
The one you seek watches with bated teeth and is well prepared to lend their aid should you take it. But they should be trusted with short leash and treated with great care, for corruption tickles the spidery legs. Who is this Jack that you talk of?
A brigand on the road. For the short time we've met them, nothing but a thorn in their side. But outgoing, like you said.
Well, perhaps he is a friend after all.
Big old snort from Mud on that one.
And this last card, the story's quite interesting thus far, eh? What do you think of this, Fates? Do you feel that it speaks to you, Victor? Do you see yourself in these cards? Do you see the light or darkness before you, perhaps?
He's at the moment he's kind of staring down at the cards, at the one that at the diviner, actually, because that's the one before she flipped it was talking and hit directly home, because she was basically describing him. And then of course she flipped the card that is his card, so he's kind of like deep in thought at this point, and he's not necessarily ignoring her, but he's just like thinking on his past a little bit, and he will. I see. Yes, to answer you, yes, I see darkness, but in that darkness, I also see light.
That is good. That is good. That means there's hope.
It's faint. It's faint, but it's there. Hence why I think I'm with these four, no, four,
Yeah.
three, these three people.
Interesting, interesting. The cards, they read quite strangely, they do. But I do not discover the ways. It's one of them. Let us see what the last card has to say. The final card. It is the end of all. The final words of wisdom spoken by the cards, and it lays bare the path that may be followed. It does not have to be, perhaps even shouldn't be. It simply gives you one path of many. Nothing is fact when one reads these cards, just one strand of fate among a thread of many, should you choose to walk it. The raven. The raven. Just like the raven leads the dead, it too will guide you, all of you. Ah, yes. I should have saw this one. But there is something strange, unnatural about it. Ravens are intelligent, curious creatures with close bonds. They lead the spirits to rest, even in these forsaken lands. But they are rare. The devil, he kills them on sight. He traps the souls that they lead here in his dark domain. Perhaps you've seen them, those with a bit of color. They wear clothes that, unlike the others, their eyes, they hold life, unlike the others. And their skin, their flesh, it is not as pale, not as unearthly. Discarded hints at your path lies ahead with the dead, the spirits of those trapped in anguish, remorse, anger, sorrow. But one of you carries such a soul with you, a dark soul that could lead to corruption if one isn't careful. I believe you know who you are. I see it. I see it all. The land of Barovia, young, in a time before the darkness, before it fell, when the land stretched beyond the mists, and the Lord, the devil, was but a young man. Trees in bloom, children at play. The raven-haired woman, young, beautiful, smiles at the young boy in noble clothes. And then a flash of red, and the raven dead in the cat's paws. Her spirit could not be saved that day. And the devil, he weeps in the shadow of his forebears. She'll look up from these cards where she was staring down. She looks up, you can see her eyes are closed. She'll open them and look across the table at the four of you. Well, there you have it. Now, the cards, they, as I say, they speak in strange ways. They are hard to understand sometimes, and it is not my job to unravel what they have. I simply give you their words. But it's getting late, and this old woman needs her rest. Do you have any parting words, my friends? Any questions, perhaps, that I can help?
Yes, grandmother. I would ask a question.
Hmm, certainly, certainly.
Are you familiar with my kind?
I am.
You mentioned challenges before and ghosts and being led in here. Is there any stories of a gray orc challenging the devil?
Well, your kind is not natural here. We have what they call goblins, but they are not like the goblins that you know. Orcs and what are they? Hobgoblins, ogres, and such humanoid races. They are not natural to Barovia. But there's been mothers like yourself here, others that the devil has brought, just like you. Playthings, toys, entertainment while he wakes. There's been other orcs like you, grey orcs, that he slaughtered, killed, tore the throats from.
I
But
believe I understand. Thank you.
perhaps you're different, or perhaps not. We shall see.
And after she finishes, he says, I believe I understand. Thank you. He'll glance once more behind him and repeat, I believe I understand. And then he'll just slink quietly to the edge.
She will look across to Vasily and Mornak for a few moments and over to Victor, giving you all a moment to ask any final questions or thoughts or whatever you might have.
Ever since I've arrived here, people say that I look like a Vistani. And considering how my upbringing is filled with mystery, I wondered, by any chance, do you know if I am?
She looks at you. You have the skin, the features, the large nose. Odds are, you have Vistani blood in your veins. But you see, the Vistani, they can travel through the fog and through the mists. It is a gift given to them by the devil many, many years ago, centuries, perhaps 500 or more, when the devil came back when he was, well, let us say, living. He came through, he conquered these lands, but he was struck with a poisonous arrow, nearly died. But the Vistani, they kept him safe. They cared for him while injured. They made sure that he did not die. And in turn, he has given them the gift to walk the mists, to come and go as they please. He holds no dominion over us. And for that we are thankful. And for that we aid him in what he needs. But he scratches our back and we scratched his. He owes us a blood debt. And in turn, he does not bother us. He leaves us be, lets us travel. His odds are, whoever your forebears are, whoever your parents came from, they are Vistani, that traveled to the mist to whatever land you come from. And who knows from there? Perhaps they left you there, a cur on the side of the road. Perhaps they died. Do not know.
Is that why the people here hate your, and he says your, but then he quickly changes and says our people so much because we aided the devil long time ago, and that's why they consider you spies even now.
People tend not to forget those that wronged them. You see, the devil was not always bad. He conquered these lands. The people, of course, they weren't comfortable in the beginning under new rulership. But he drove away the barbarians. He drove away the druids of the Khans. He built his castle upon the hill. But dark times came after that, and the man we knew, he was no more, just the devil. He let these lands die. He let it all wither away. The barbarians, they returned. Some say they now work for him. The beasts of the woods, they got corrupted. The dead crawled from their graves. I do not know why or what this has to do with him. But the short of it, yes, I believe many people think of us as cohorts, allies of the devil. But that is not the case. At least, not all of us. There are some, of course, but no. We are simply thankful for him for giving us the freedom to do as we wish. And in turn, we do not cross him.
Is it possible that the man the Vasani saved and the devil now is not the same person? It may be the same body, but not the same person.
Perhaps he goes by the same name. One Lord Strahd van Zarovich. With the people, as they call him, the devil. He seems to prefer that anyway. But he's certainly flawed. But who am I to judge? I suppose we're all a bit flawed and evil in our own ways, huh? We all make mistakes. She will gather up these cards again, giving each of you back your card, which she seems to know exactly whose is whose, so she hands them back to you. Well, my friends, 'tis the hours getting late, and I must get some rest. But please, have a good evening there. And she'll slowly stand up. You can hear her bones creaking and snapping as she tries to get up. And slowly
I'll step forward and help her.
Victor will go over. Yeah, Victor will too.
She says, such gentlemen you are, such gentlemen. She'll take your aid as she grabs a small cane and makes her way over to where her bed cot is and takes a seat, motions for her door. Have a good night, my friends, until we meet again.
Thank you, grandmother.
She will lay back on her bed, just closes her eyes as both of you stand there. And Mornak Vasily, they head out of the tent. Do you guys linger or head on out as well?
I think I'll just lean over to Victor and quietly say, "We've heard the name Zarovich before when we first arrived. Have you?"
You would have
Could
heard.
I make it?
You would have heard the in the death house the prior people, which was called the Durst family, and the people that they were sacrificing and stuff down in the basements. Though they may not have spoken to you directly about him or anything, they would have spoken of him as being the Lord of the land. And they actually changed some of their beliefs and some of their rituals or their sacrifices in honor to what they called at one time the green wolf or the gray wolf, and eventually is sort of to meld into the devil. They would have mentioned Strahd van Zarovich a few times. You would have heard him, the name spoken and stuff, but from where you're at, you probably wouldn't know exactly who he was.
Okay. So my response to that would be, I heard of the name, but I don't know anything more of that.
Well, we know very little ourselves. I think this is something we're going to have to unravel a bit. I think it's best we get some rest at this point. We have to finish our errand in the morning and get this child to town.
As you step out of this tent, you can see most of the Vistani have either retired to their tents or simply passed out on the ground around the fires. A few of them still sit talking quietly, and you'll see Alika over to the side as she sits on a small stump sipping a glass of wine that looks pretty much empty at this point. She sort of rises it in a bit of a salute towards you and smiles before taking the last gulp down and setting it down beside her, and getting ready to roll out her bedroll.
I believe there was some tents set up for us. I'm going to sleep beside the wagon. That's where those two went, right? The wagon?
Yep.
I'm going to sleep beside the wagon and take in the night air.
And Victor, do you do so? More than not conversely, I imagine they'd sort of want to stick together, so they'd probably retire over by the wagon as well, maybe setting up their own bedrolls and stuff. Ismark does have a few tents and bedrolls and stuff in the wagon as needed as well. So,
What's in the tents themselves? Is it like just a bedroll inside the tent, or is it like somewhat of a bed setup?
No, basically just bedrolls. It just is tent from the night air. Really, is all it's offering, but they're quite small and just a little pop-up tent sort of thing.
Okay. How's the weather actually at this point? Does it seem like it's cool and it will get cooler, or is it kind of stagnant?
It's rather cool and drizzly, but it doesn't seem like the temperature's really changed since you've been outside. Same thing with Mud and the others. The temperature's pretty much kind of hovered, not cold but not hot, and always sort of drizzly and damp.
It's a little warm for me, but
Okay. Well, if it's going to be a little bit of drizzly, then I think Victor would actually go inside the tent. But he would try to get one that is the closest to our wagons. So just in case if anything arises.
As all of you retire to your own bedrolls and tents and what have you, you'll see Alika stand up and sort of hurry over. She looks quite tired and a little bit 3 sheets to the wind at this point, but she'll smile. I hope your eating went well, eh? You look a bit disturbed and confused, but that's normal, Get a bit of rest and you'll be good as new in the morning, eh? We have an excellent breakfast planned, eggs and pancakes and fresh made waffles. They're delicious. The man you heard telling the story, he's an excellent cook. Bright and early, before what you would call the sunrises. You will be able to smell it in the air, but you have your breakfast and we will be sure to send you off with full bellies and plenty of rest there. Says, but you should wait just a few. Something interesting is going to happen. Toodaloo. And she'll sort of dance off towards her own little tent, pretty much ignoring if you try to stop her or say anything.
that was foreboding at best.
Since they're night here, I'll say Mornak and Vasily probably doze off along with Ismark and Irina. But do either of you stay awake?
I think Mud will stay awake for a little while. A little more disturbed than anything. Not paying a lot of attention, not really doing much of anything, just kind of confused and thrown off by this. In a weird way, even some of the cards that were not his spoke to his upbringing and what he deals with, and it's, yeah, he's thrown off.
And what the victor? Does he doze off?
Not at first. First, he's going to kind of tend to his gear, mess with the great sword a little bit more, and make sure that he has everything prepared for the next day. But then he will kind of contemplate on what Madame Ava said and take in everything and kind of think a little bit more on his past, about his parents, like trying to remember, was he abandoned? Was he, abandoned to be saved kind of deal? Like, did his parents have to sacrifice themselves to save him? Like, he's just trying to remember, but considering how long he has lived up to this point, he is just kind of failing, and then he just gradually falls asleep from that point.
And as you're just starting to doze off, Mud, you as well. You're facing sort of south in your tents and wagons, the way Ismark has parked them, and it looks down the path that you had come up. So the Sarah Falls is sort of a ravine. It was slowly a gradual incline downward into this valley that you went to. So as you're looking back from the whence you came, slowly a gradual uphill, but it's fairly pretty much a straight shot. There's woods on either side here and there, but you have a pretty clear view of this path. You'll notice at first, Mud, and maybe Victor, as you hear Mud gasp or say something, but in the distance, perhaps 2-3 miles out, it's quite far. You can see this pale bluish glow. It seems to be moving in the distance very, very slowly, but it's bright, almost like starlight that you haven't seen in days now, in the far distance, or almost like a torchlight, but blue. And you see that it's slowly getting bigger and slowly getting bigger. It seems whatever this is headed up the path towards you, or headed down the path, I guess. You can't make out what it is from the distance, but it almost looks sort of like fog, or sort of like torchlight, but glowing with a bright blue and moving in your direction. What do you do?
Take a glance around to see if anybody else, any of the guards or any of the folks still on the last legs, not quite asleep yet, or
You look
noticed
around.
this even.
Nope, you notice that all of them are pretty much zonked out. If there's anybody still awake, they're probably in their tents. But those that are out and about, whatever, they have not set guard or anything. Just their soft snores echoing through the night. There is no other sound as well.
Knowing Mornak and Vasily are asleep, without taking my eyes away, I'll walk over towards Victor's tent and kind of just open the flap to see if he's awake in there.
And you did say that I woke up.
Yeah, it would have been just as you're starting to doze off,
Right.
maybe just sort
Morgan.
of hearing out the tent flap or something, but you would slowly start to see it as well just before you doze off.
I'll just kind of lean in and go,
Okay.
and point up the trail. Do you see this? There's something coming down.
I think Victor would not even like try to put on armor or anything like that. He would just grab his weapon. Probably just put on a belt loop that has like the dagger, and grab the shield that he has and slip it on the back part of his belt and grabbing his sword and kind of stepping out, not necessarily like ready for combat, but just in case if he needs to, and just seeing if he can get a better glance at this thing.
It's in the distance, and as it's coming down the hill, you can see it's from where you're at. It looks almost like a rolling fog. It doesn't drift off into the trees on either side. It follows this path all the way into the distance and around the tree line far, far ahead, but it just keeps coming longer and longer. Almost, it looks just like a snake-like form of fog following the road that you traveled and then coming down the road towards you. And it keeps getting bigger and bigger, brighter and longer. Both of you give me a perception
Wait.
check.
It's following the path that we took.
Yes.
12.
Right, hang on. Perception and okay, so just one. Wow, I got a 20.
Nice. So Victor, you will perhaps look a little bit closer, your eyes adjusting to the darkness a little bit. Mud seem a little bit maybe too distracted, can't quite make it out. But Victor, you can see that it's people. A long procession, almost like a parade of people. And they're marching down the road in the distance around the corner where the Hangman's Noose area was, and down this road towards the Vistani camp. Hundreds, perhaps 1,000 people. But they don't look normal. They seem like they're made of fog and that their bodies glow with this bluish light. And they'll just keep marching. As they slowly start to come in, Mud, you will notice them too. As they're maybe half a mile out and slowly closing in. You look in the distance and this parade of people just stretches for at least a good 2 miles that you can see anyway. Thousands.
I think once Mud sees that it's people, he'll find the closest Vistani who's sleeping in a sack and kind of give him a kick and grab him. Where are your guards?
Says, what do you want? What do you want? What?
I'll just lift him.
While
It comes. Where are the guards?
He looks. You.
while he's doing that, I think I'm going to wake up our other two compatriots.
This man will swat at you while trying to make you let go. Says, damn buffoon, it's just the ghosts. It's just the ghosts. Put me down. Stand back and watch them.
Just ghost.
You're sort of trying to like pull your hand away from him.
We'll let him go. Probably drop him a foot or two. Not realizing I picked him all the way up into the air.
He sort of stares at you, this disgruntled look. You buffoon. Go back to bed. Sort of swats you away and waves you off, mumbling curses to himself as he settles back down. By now, this procession is maybe 100 yards out. And you can see it in the front. It's indeed people, but they are transparent, very fog-like, bluish-colored light that they glow with. Some of them are dressed in rags. Some are dressed in armor, like knights. There's warriors with great battle axes. There's small little halflings dressed in robes. Some look to be wizards, very archaic looking with pointed top hats. Knights, soldiers, peasant people with pitchforks and shovels, some with torches. Everything is this pale, transparent glow to it. And it begins to move through this Vistani camp, at least 5 or 6 wide of people. They're not marching in like order, like a military or anything, but they're in one long parade of people. They don't seem to have any interest in what's around them. They just begin marching directly through this camp and further down the road.
Which direction is the Devil's Castle?
The direction that they would be heading.
Okay. Well, that answers that question. I'm going to look to Mud and say, is it possible that these are the people that Strahd has killed?
Most of them, they're all dead, most of them in various states of decay, rags and clothes and disrepair. They mouth silently words and chants and anger. Some of them like they're peasants getting ready to storm the castle. Other ones like soldiers in military regalia. No sound or anything from them, though. Nothing even moves under their feet. They move no footprints. The grass doesn't wave. They just continue by the
I think
hundreds.
when Victor said that, Mud will actually step closer to them, not quite into the mass, but almost like the folks watching on the side with the running of the bulls, and start staring intently, looking for any gray orcs.
As you peer across this, you do see people of all different races, elves and goblins, humans, dwarves, and everything else. Are you looking for a particular orc or just orcs in general?
I'm looking for an orc that wears the crest of a boar, whether it be a trinket or something on his shield or a scar like I have. But I'm specifically looking for one that wears the crest of like a stylized boar, where the tusks come out, but then they, almost like a deer's antlers, they split off.
Okay. Give me a perception check, and I'll give you 1 boon.
Okay, 1 on the boon, but 19 on the check.
Nice. 20. You watch as these people parade past. Some of them look in your direction, but it's as if they see right through you. They don't even seem to acknowledge your existence, as if there is nothing around them. They just follow this path almost mindlessly. But they all weep. You can see tears streaming down their faces. In this sadness, it seems to, you don't hear anything, but you can just feel their pain and their sorrow weeping in your chest, and it feels quite heavy. You will indeed see this figure that you're looking for eventually in the middle of the herd at some point as they're moving through the encampment.
I don't think I'd say anything, but if Victor's nearby, he would see me pull a bloodied cloth out of my belt that bears the same boar's head insignia. As I look from the ghost over my shoulder into the nothingness and back multiple times, just nod my head. I believe I understand.
As you look down the path from where you came, you can see the end of the parade of the dead. At the end of it, you start to come around the tail end of the snake. And if you look to where the front is, or follow it along to where it's headed, you can see this pale blue gold glow in the distance, far off in between the breakings of trees here and there, up along what looks to be perhaps some sort of bridge or something crossing a chasm, all the way around to where this castle is in the distance. They're moving faster than what you would move at like a walk. They're moving more like a wagon speed. Even though it looks like they're walking, they're moving much faster, being ethereal. But again, as you look back, you can see the front of the procession making its way into the castle. miles away. The whole thing takes probably a good hour or so to pass through the camp. All the Vistani seem to be not even care about it. None of them, they don't even stir. Besides the guy that you woke up who was a little pissed off.
Victor, I almost find that this is normal here.
I do believe you are right. I don't think. Or, maybe we should talk to Madame Ava about this tomorrow. I fear if we wake her up tonight, she may get a little mad, considering how the person you just woke up was mad. But maybe she can give us more of detail. But it.
I lead him real close to Victor and quietly say, I'm fairly certain if we wake her up, we're doomed.
I have to agree to that.
Just clasp Victor on the shoulder. So be it then. Sleep well. If you can, after that.
I'm not sure I will be, but I will give it an attempt.
Let's see, Ismark and Irina, Vasily and Mornak, they all seem to have slept through this. Not much stirring. And when you were close, Mud, you would have noticed that they gave off a coldness to them. Not a cold from the weather or anything, a very unnatural sort of chill to them, much like the dead. But it washes away in any cases. You both settle in and do your best to get some sleep. The morning will arrive a bit too soon for comfort, and you will hear what sounds like yelling, fighting, words of like anger occurring outside of your tent, Victor. And I'm mad you probably fell asleep, maybe off to the side, Mud, but it seems to be coming from around the corner from where the others are all camped out and stuff. A few voices yelling back and forth, and you hear a man's voice yelling something about the damn travelers. He says he's gonna curse them all.
I think Victor would at least get dressed this time instead of going out in his skivvies. But he would do it somewhat in a hurry. I don't think he would put on his armor, though, but he would grab and strap his weapon on his back and go out and see what the commotion is.
You'll hear Irina in the wagon say, Ismark, wait, no. And Ismark says, I told you we should not have come to this place. Now they're going to kill us all. He says, let me handle this, Irina. Let me handle this. You'll see him step out of the back of his wagon, and he sort of hesitates. And then you hear the smashing of what sounds like a bottle against the side of the wagon. As you step out, Victor, and Mud, you come around the side of this wagon. You see another bottle hurled against the side of your wagon that just shatters in this spray of glass. About 30 feet away, you see this old man, not the one you woke up, but the man who was telling the story about the wizard last night. And he lies on the ground, completely eviscerated, his intestines spilled across the ground. Next to him stands two younger women, maybe in their 20s or 30s, and another man. He has another bottle in his hand, and he's marching in your direction. What do you do? There's a large group of the Vistani kind of scattered around in like a half circle around all of this in the center.
I think I'd start actually stepping towards the man on the ground to see if there was anything I could do to help him.
Give me a perception, but with, hold on, let me see what it's actually going to be with one Bane.
I think I'm going to position myself in between what was it, Ismark?
Mhm.
Between Ismark and the man like heading towards us. Because I'm gonna kind of like stop Ismark and hopefully, keep him from talking. Because I think he's just gonna, make things worse.
Really?
Yeah. Ismark's going to be the one to make things worse. I rolled a 0.
Okay. So as you march forward, you can clearly maybe
Awesome.
on a path towards this man who is on the ground, knowing mud, and I assume your intention is to try and see at least what happened or to help or something.
See, well, yeah. I mean, see if it's a situation I can assist with. But
As you take a few steps forward, you can see the man with this empty wine bottle in his hand who's trudging towards Ismark. You can see just for this briefest of section as he turns his eyes sort of looking at you, and then you just feel the smash of a bottle against the side of your face. You're going to take 7 points of damage.
oh, jeez.
And you can feel the blood.
Can I have those bottles, please?
Can you
Like I would like those for my weapon. I want those bottles as a weapon.
Yes, they are. They are hefty bottles of glass. These Wizard of Wines winery. But he says, "You filthy cur! You killed him." And he sort of points over his shoulder. You can see he has the end of the neck of the bottle. It's still just the shards of glass in his hands as he gets ready to step forward again towards you, Mud, taking a swipe. He says, "I'm gonna curse you all."
Mud will, after getting hit, will just spin and growl at him. I usually try to keep my calm, but that let a little bit of the orc out.
And Ismark too will beside you, Victor. He gives you this panicked sort of look. And he's the Vistani, they will kill us all and curse our families. No. Says, what did you do to this man? Tell me you didn't do this, please.
Of course we didn't do this. Go back into the wagon and keep an eye on your sister. And stay there and we handle this. And is it quite obvious how this guy, you said his entrails and everything's out.
He is dead. Yes, he is most certainly dead.
Well, I mean, was he stabbed? Was he like clawed?
You'd have to get a closer look to really kind of see. From what it looks like, he was looks like almost like he was disemboweled or I can't think of what it's called, but it's like when you kill a deer and take everything out.
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
I
Okay.
can't think of the word I'm looking for.
If nobody stepped in to stop Mud yet, he's going to grab the guy by the throat and lift him in the air. I guess that'd be a grapple.
Actually, let's do initiative. Since he did it. So, let's see. Oh, I got it over here. Set these guys up, and we'll assume that the other two are back for the moment since you guys stepped out first, so I'll deal with them last, basically. But
sorry, I forgot initiative rolls.
Who wants to go fast or slow?
Oh, that's right.
Yes.
I'm going fast.
Oh, so we don't roll?
Nope, no roll.
Remind me, fast, you get one action, but if you go slow, you get 2 actions, basically. Like you can move and...
Correct, yep. Basically,
Okay.
slow is move and attack.
But I can...
A move action anyway.
Okay, so I could still move, though, with a fast action.
You can charge with a fast action, but you take a bane to it.
Yeah, as far as if you're doing an attack, yeah. But otherwise, you could just move as a fast action.
Okay. Okay, then I will go fast as well, because don't necessarily want to attack.
You'll see Ismark looks clearly scared about this, and you've heard about the rumors of these Vistani cursing your family for basically eternity, all different horrible things that they can do if you wrong them. Um, this man is also going to go fast, but you guys will go first. Most of the people of the Vistani are sort of standing around, sort of trying to judge what the hell's going on, as they all look like they just crawled out of tents as well. From where you're at, Mud, and you look over at this man who's on the ground, he's been completely disemboweled. It looks like some sort of jagged across his abdomen, and his body has been thrown onto where the fire was. So like all of his innards and stuff are still just smoldering and burning.
So that's cool, but as soon as I got hit with that bottle, I think the guy on the ground's out of my vision. One would turn, grail, and grab the man by the throat, and basically a grapple attempt to try to grab him and lift him in the air. And with the sudden burst of anger, ice would form around the throat as I grabbed at it, and my hand, as I would produce a prayer while I did it.
All right. Do you want to actually try and grapple a hold of him?
Yes. So I want to grab him by the throat and lift him in the air and just hold him there.
Targets that you do and make a strength or agility attack against the target's agility. His agility is going to be 12. So
I rolled an 8, but I got a 5 on my boon from the prayer.
So that's a grapple. So yeah, you're able to grab a hold of him. You can see he reaches up and grabs a hold of your hand as well, trying to basically pull himself free. He's not a real big, maybe like 5'6", 5'7", fairly small, older gentleman. So
I would just hold him there growling at him.
Victor's going to start yelling, or yelling's the wrong word, raised voice, and be like, Mud, no, stop. And he's going to run up and kind of get like in between Mud and the guy that he's holding and be like, look, it's understandable he's upset. If someone killed one of us, you would be upset at that. So just calmly put him down and let's talk about this, because you know he didn't do this and we have to figure out who did.
this old guy that you're holding, Mud, just stares at you with absolutely hate-filled eyes. You can see by the way you have him, he's not really able to, but he's trying to stab at you the best he can with this shattered bottleneck. And he'll actually raise his other hand, sort of like this, and start pointing at you, giving you the devil fingers.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm waiting for my next turn.
Ismark will sort of wave back, and Karina, just stay in the car. Stay in the wagon. Stay in the wagon. And he will too also run up as fast as he can next to you, Mud, and this man, sort of putting his hands between both of you, trying to push you away a little bit. Says, we did not kill this man. Please, you must understand. This is misunderstanding. Let's talk about this, eh? And if you're not going to do any other actions, Victor, we could actually hop back over to Mud, because it would be your initiative.
Well, yeah, I figured that was
Yeah.
my action was running up and speaking, so.
So both Victor and Ismark run up to Mud, and you can see this guy looks in a bit of confusion. He's still pissed, but he does sort of drop the bottle, at least the shards of it, out of his hand, lets it fall to the ground.
Then Mud will take one of the shards and pull it out of his cheek and stare at it as he just releases the guy. Not gently, but no, he doesn't throw him to the ground, but he doesn't set him down nicely. And he'll throw the shard of glass on top of him and just turn and stare towards Ismark and Victor.
This man will hit the ground with a bit of a thump, and he picks himself up, stares at you, over to Victor, Ismark. You see his eyes cast to Arena in the distance and the others. It is time you leave this place. If you ever return, you better watch your back. They'll be gone.
think
someone just murdered one of your own, and
Do you not
you
think I
want
could see
to.
that? That is my father that is lying
But
there.
why? But why did you accuse us? And with that, Victor's going to actually pull out his greatsword. It's still sheathed. He's just going to pull it around from his back, and he's going to reveal the blade and show that there's no blood on it, and say, "If I would have attacked this man, you see my weapon, no blood on it. You would know what kind of wound this made. Look at Mud. Look at the wounds on your father. Those two do not coalesce. Mud would not have killed your father in this way. Something, oh shit, now I'm trying to remember that word. Dissected? No, that's not it. But you know what I'm trying to say. Like, tore out your father's insides.
disavow.
Like, there's no blood on Mud's hands. Yeah, there we go. There's no blood on Mud's hands.
For these words, since you come into our camp, and we wake up with the old man dead. Says the Vistani did not kill each other. Since there's only one group of people that come here, one group of people that would have done this. I'm giving you your chance to live, but you best watch your backs. For once you're gone from this camp, then I'm not bound by my stories. Be gone before
I'm
I
going to
change
kind
my
of
mind.
step up. How tall is this guy? Is he like normal
Like
height?
5'6". Not the Vistani are fairly shorter people, so
Okay, I'm going to stand up and like kind of stare straight in his face and be like, Vistani do not kill their own. Then what am I?
a bastard child, apparently. He will actually see
But still Vistani.
rears back a little bit and just hocks in your face. Now leave before I change my mind.
Ooh.
And he will turn and start to walk away towards where his father's on the ground. The other people seem to not really want to interfere with this man and what's going on. They sort of disperse a little bit. You can even see Madame Eva over off the way in the tent watching this, but she doesn't take any movement either.
I'll lean over to Victor.
Mm,
We know it wasn't us. You would not have killed this man. And I look at the body on the ground and say, I wanted to waste the meal. And turn around and start walking away.
This Mark will sort of tug at you, Victor. Yes, let's be gone from here before we make matters worse. Regardless of what it is, let's just be gone from this place. We have traveling to do anyway.
okay. Yeah, Victor's going to turn around then and he's going to turn and start walking, but then stop since he's a little bit closer now towards this body. And I'm going to try to get a better look at this body to see if I can tell what did this, or maybe if there's any tracks around the body.
As you guys kind of pack up your stuff or whatever, and you pass by this body, Victor, you can see whoever did kill this man looks like it was done with a rather jagged, serrated sort of blade, because the wound isn't a clean slice or anything. It looks almost sawed, sort of. But he also has what looks... So you've seen it on the prayer book of the Morning Lord that you have, Mud and stuff. The holy symbol sort of looks like a Ankh, but where the top circle part of the Ankh would be is actually a golden sun with rays coming out of it. And carved onto him is that same symbol, but it would be inverted so that across his abdomen and down, like to his groin areas where the sun would be raised down, that has just been torn apart. But he has that sort of, that's what it looked like it was carved into his chest. That seems to be what killed him, obviously, because he doesn't have any other wounds. And you don't see any blade or anything, but his body was thrown on top of the burning embers of the fire pit and basically is left there smoldering. Can both of you give me a wisdom check, or a will, I'm sorry. Actually, Mud, you would have 2 boons on this one.
All right. You said a will check, right?
Yep.
That would be a 12 for me.
It's a 7.
Right. You've seen, well,
Yeah.
you'd be familiar at least with this Mud that it would be a more serrated sort of blade, or saw-like, to cut in the way this did. You would definitely recognize that.
Oh, it's an orc blade. It's primitive. It's not no fancy rapier.
Exactly. And Victor, you look at that, and maybe Mud mentions how that's more primitive style weapon, and you think you've seen a weapon much serrated and primitive like that. It was accompanied by a very nice looking rapier alongside Jack's belt.
Okay. I'm going to go over to Mud, and as we're packing up the wagon, I'm going to say, I think it was Jack. It looks like possibly his weapon might have done this. Now, whether he was wielding it at the time, that's a different story. But I think that might be possible.
Mark will sort of shrug since he's standing there. It does not matter at this point, Victor. We must hurry. We must hurry. He'll quickly begin packing up and strapping his horses and going as fast as he can to get things going. Irina will just be sort of huddled in the back of the wagon, trying to stay out of sight. You see she has this worried look on her face. She says, I'm very uncomfortable, my friends. Something isn't right here. I feel nervous. She lifts her hands, and you can see she's visibly shaking. Because I cannot stop. It's a chill that's running up my spine. And please let us go. Let us go. We must hurry.
Well, if it was Jack or not, we got what we came here for. I hope he's not the one who is supposed to assist us.
What do you mean assist us? We're not having that man with us again. Ismark shakes his head. He is not riding with us. It's bad enough he came here with us. He's not going to assist us.
Ismark. Let's get the Valakai.
The best thing you've said all day, my friend. And he will pull up on the wagon thing, and you can see Mornak and Celia climb in the back. Which one of you is going to ride up front with him?
I am.
You want one of them too. It doesn't matter to me.
No, I am. That way I don't bleed all over the carriage. Pill glass out of my face.
Okay. What kind of wagon is it? Is it one of those like open to where we can like have a conversation in between the front and the back, and we can visibly see out the front?
Oh yeah, it's a covered wagon, but it's got a hole in the back side or the front, whatever you want to call it, on both sides.
It's an Oregon Trail wagon.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Then I'm gonna sit like up front, so that way I can still see out, because I still have like the best eyes of the group. But as we're leaving, if we see Madame Ava, I think Victor's going to try to give a bow out towards her. And almost like the sad look that we're leaving kind of deal.
She hasn't really not moved from outside of her tent. She's brought her small stool out, and she seems to be fiddling with what looks to be a small cube in her hands, but she watches all of this, doesn't intervene or doesn't say anything really. But she'll notice you, Victor, and she'll just offer a slight nod of her head. Doesn't smile or do anything else beside that. She watches the wagon start to pull away.
Does it look like, she gives a nod, but is it a nod of Basically, Victor's trying to find out if she's mad at us or she understands that we didn't do this kind of deal.
It is whatever Victor wishes to think he thinks.
Okay. All right.
Ismark will begin pulling this wagon through the camp, following that same path that the ghost did the night before, as you begin to head north once more, out of town, into the town of Valakai. The people here in the Vistani camp will part out of your way, and they sort of stand on either side of the road and watch you a little bit. Some of them look quite angry, others almost look sad, but they don't intervene. They don't really even say or judge. They just watch as you pull away. And it takes roughly half hour or so out of town as you head north along this path. It's called the Sayre Falls Road. And you slowly moving at a slight incline. It seems this whole road leads down into a valley. And maybe mud with your background, a little bit of naturist to it anyway. It feels like you're going deeper into the valley instead of higher up into the mountains where Ismark mentioned that you needed to go. And Ismark will also start to have this bit of a confused face on his path. He says, this is not right. He says, we need to be up on the main road. And he sort of looks over his shoulder up this cliffside that's on your left-hand side. The wagon's following up towards the top. He says, the main road that leads to Valakai. It is up above, but we seem to be heading deeper.
Do you not know the way, Ismark?
He says, as I said, I do not travel to Sayre Falls, but this road, it's I've been told it connects to the main road, so we'll just have to keep following it, yes? It's supposed to be a shortcut, but again, I don't follow these roads. And you actually take out a bit of a map, and it does show that it connects to the main road, but it's rather rudimentary and basic. It says, this map was my father's. He used to travel, and he guaranteed his maps. I don't know. He looks a little bit panicked.
Can I, with my background as a hunter and all in the wilderness, and an exile and traveling in the mountains, can I see if it makes sense that this would eventually meet back up? Or
yeah, totally. Yep. I'm going to say intelligence and give yourself 2 boons.
Oh, okay, 21.
Beautiful. So, odds are that his map isn't necessarily wrong. It does seem a bit weird that the path is following further and further down this ravine, but you get the sense that it's probably just going to meet up with wherever this crashing waterfall that you can still hear is into the distance. You basically follow in the valley down to the riverbed. Your guess is it either circles back up from there or else follows the cliffside back up or something of that sort.
Mark, I've seen land like this before. This will come back around and head back up after what I assume would be swampland or something like that. It's just safer. Horses can't quite move through the mud properly.
Okay, well, I surely hope you're right, my friend. He'll nudge the horses forward back into a trot again, trusting your word as they move down this path. Eventually, you can see the River Ivlis running alongside the right-hand side of the wagon. And it's actually very nice, crystal clear water that runs through this river. Eventually, maybe another half hour or so out, the ground levels off, and you're rolling right alongside the river itself. And up ahead, you can see this great waterfall that spills over the side. Far in the distance, the castle can seem looming up into the sky as you've come a bit closer to it now. And you can see the full thing. Actually, I'll have a picture of that I'll put into the chat in a little bit. But the river flows out, and then it opens up into this huge pool of water where the waterfall spills down. And the road ends there, at least partially. You can see Ismark looks, and he sort of glances over to his left. And as all of you look, you can see that the road, though it ends right here beside the river, it begins to wind back up the cliffside to your left, back and forth. And he looks at that, and as all of you look at that, he shakes his head and points up above. So this path, the road itself comes to an end at the pool, but then it begins to snake back and forth up the cliffside to the main road that's up above. You can actually see a bridge arching this little valley that you're in. Very gorgeous looking. It's decrepit looking now, but it's a very nice crafted stone bridge that stretches this entire chasm, probably a good 300 feet or more overhead. And it's at least 100 feet up above you. Ismark looks. This road is quite treacherous looking as it winds back and forth all the way to the top of the cliffside. All of you can recognize it probably be pretty damn risky by foot, even more so with a wagon. Ismark looks at this and looks at you, this defeated look on his face. The wagon, it won't make that path. That is for foot, not wagon. We can't go back to that town.
How far from Balakai are we?
Says that there's the second Serfar's bridge. Says perhaps 6 hours.
And how far on foot?
At least 12.
What time is it?
By the time you guys said that, would probably be around 9 a.m. And he looks over his shoulder to Irina. Says, I will not leave my father's body here. She lays her hand on his coffin that's still in the back of the wagon. Says, the wagon must go.
No. If that's the case, it's best if one or two of us walk ahead to find the best path.
The cliffside.
Is it possible for one of the wizard friends to cast a spell, maybe to make the wagon float a little bit? I don't know what wizardry they would have.
Neither one would have.
Since they're not here, I can't really interact with them, so.
Yeah, neither one has. Not one that can make. I mean, there's a mage hand, but that's only up to 5 pounds that he can help you.
Yeah.
Not really. They'll both sort of struggle a bit, and they don't have anything. Mud, when you look at this, it would be doable by foot without any means, but it would be a little, treacherous here and there. By wagon, it looks pretty damn treacherous. Some areas of the road don't even look wide enough for the wagon itself, let alone some of the corners that you would have to
Could
go
we, Mud, do you think we can put the coffin on one of the horses and walk the horse up the path
It's doubtful.
and then just proceed on foot?
The truth of the matter is, I spent most of my life in the mountains, and this is going to be a slightly rigorous climb on me. I don't know that these horses are, and I look at to Ismark, or these people are going to make this climb. Maybe we should scout around this pond and see if there's another way up on the other side. We may have to camp outside for a night.
That is not a good deal, my friend. You heard of Estani, but we are gone from there. We are sitting ducks, the creatures that prowl these. I do not even know. Both of you give me perception checks.
And 16.
I got a 5.
But you will notice, as you glance around, most of the other side cliff areas and stuff, one is just a huge waterfall coming over the cliff side. The other side, you'd have to cross across the water. It might be climbable, but definitely not traversable with a wagon or anything across the pool. You get the sense that the pool is probably pretty deep too, maybe 15, 20 feet at the deepest. It's quite clear water, though. You can see fish and stuff swimming around in there. As you glance up to this bridge above you, a good 100 feet or so, you can see three what look to be birds circling above. They're rather large for birds. And you could swear you've seen somewhat humanoid figures in place of the bodies. But then they swoop back behind the bridge. Every now and then they'll swoop, almost like a hawk or something circling, or a vulture circling above, but they're more human-sized.
Seems we've got the attention of the local animals as well. Ismark,
Yes.
we either need to find another way around or do something about the body. I do not believe this cart will make it up.
He'll look over at Rarina and she shakes it. I will not leave the body. I will sit here as long as I have to, even if I must die. I will not leave my father here for these wretched beasts. It's a devil.
Tell me, Mud, you're a priest, right?
I am. No.
Do you know by any chance other religions? Not as much as what you know yours.
I learned a little about the Night Mother and the Morning Lord when we arrived here, but
Well, what about any rituals about burial at sea or burial on the water? And Victor's going to point to this lake here.
well, in my religion, we place the bodies under the ice. Yeah. I'll lean in real close to Victor and say, those that we don't eat. And we do the blessing and place them under ice. If Irina would be accepting of that, I can do the blessings of Father Winter here.
Do you say this in earshot of her?
Yes, except for the eating one part.
No. My father will not be buried here. He will not be set out adrift on the Eveless River. He will be buried in a cemetery. He will be prayed over by the Morning Lord and watched by the ravens. His soul must pass on. He is not to be one of the dead marching the length of the path. Yet again, there's too many of them already. Since I will not make his soul tortured like that. I've seen the way they cry. And she will look at this path, and up above, you'll notice there's now 5 of these creatures circling above. And if you look at this path as she looks at it too, and it kind of stretches back and forth and back and forth, you'll see at least 3 more of these creatures clinging to the side of the cavern, or the side of the cliffside walls, Closest one you can see, it looks humanoid, sort of vulturish mixed with a humanoid, mostly skeletal, thin-framed, but it has this beautiful, womanly like face that lets out the screech as all of you look at it. Then you can see it leap from the wall, and then in a second, a third, up above, you can see these four that are circling above begin to dive bomb down. And behind you, you can hear the splashing of water. All of you look over, you can see what looks to be these sort of fish-like humanoids starting to pull themselves out of the water in your direction. And we will call it there for the evening.
I think I might have wet myself a bit.
Yeah, you'll need a will saving throws and get back. But
Yeah. It's time for us to get feared again and run away.
I mean, considering that an old man with a bottle did quite a bit of damage to me.